On April 16, 1945, Commander Julian Becton was informed that a large formation of more than 100 enemy aircraft was approaching his ship. For 80 minutes, the Allen M. Sumner-class destroyer USS Laffey faced off against a horde of Japanese pilots, including kamikaze bombers. Despite the damage inflicted by 4 initial attacks in less than 5 minutes, Laffey and her brave crew continued to battle countless incoming aircraft before the nightmare ended. For what seemed like an eternity, gunners kept downing enemy planes before they smashed into the damaged ship, while others managed to race through the heavy gunfire to further harm the destroyer. On that day, USS Laffey faced the most unrelenting kamikaze air attack in history, living up to her nickname as the ship that would not die. Laffey 2. Only 2 U.S. Navy warships have been named in honor of Bartlett Laffey, a Civil War-era seaman and Medal of Honor recipient, and the second was one of the 58 completed Sumner-class destroyers. Such vessels were characterized by their twin 5-inch gun turrets, dual rudders, additional anti-aircraft weapons, and many of the advancements incorporated into the earlier Fletcher class, including the Mark VI 8500 RPM gyro. They were also equipped with 10 21-inch torpedo tubes, 6 depth-charge projectors, and 2 depth-charge tracks. Despite their displacement of 3,316 tons, the Sumner destroyers could accomplish cat-like turns due to her top speed of 34 knots and dual rudder arrangement. Commissioned on February 8, 1944, with a crew of 336, the commanding officer chosen for the second Laffey was 36-year-old Frederick Julius Becton. One of the most battle-tested skippers at the time, with 4 Silver Stars under his belt, Becton had previously worked as the executive officer and later commander of the destroyer Aaron Ward and witnessed the sinking of the first Laffey during the November 1942 Battle of Guadalcanal. The most feared duty. On June 3, 1944, Laffey steamed toward the beaches of Normandy, escorting a large flotilla. At dawn on D-Day, 3 days later, Laffey approached Utah Beach in France, alongside over 5,000 ships of all types, in what was the largest seaborne invasion in history. On the Normandy coast, Laffey's crew battled German land batteries and provided gunfire support to the infantry ashore. Afterward, Laffey sailed toward the Pacific Theater. While there, the destroyer participated in the Leyte landings, followed by months of dangerous duties around the Philippines, Leyte Gulf, the Caroline Islands, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. The following year, Laffey was screening the heavy fleet units bombarding Okinawa in close support of the ground forces ashore, when on April 12th, Commander Frederick Julian Becton received a call from his communications officer. Laffey was summoned to take part in the most perilous and unwanted assignment for naval personnel, the radar picket line. Commander Becton was to detach Laffey from the screening force and sail towards the huge naval anchorage at Kuramareto, less than 50 miles from Okinawa. The destroyer would then join the destroyer Cass and Young and pick up the fighter director team. Radar picket line. Arriving in the early hours of April 13th, Becton and his crew immediately noticed that many of the ships anchored at Kuramareto had been heavily damaged by kamikazes, while on the same radar picket duty they were about to embark on. The crew had already faced such lethal pilots in Leyte, Mindoro, Luzon, and Iwo Jima, but their morale was still low at the idea of encountering them again, especially after the men received news that President Franklin D. Roosevelt had passed away the day before. Even so, Laffey was sailing with full magazines of all calibers and was ready to take on the enemy. As the vessel tied up alongside USS Cass and Young, her skipper offered some final advice to Commander Becton. Quote, "Keep moving and keep shooting. Steam as fast as you can and shoot as fast as you can." Then, on April 14th, Laffey relieved the destroyer mine layer J. William Ditter. During the maneuver, the vessel's commander informed Becton that there had not been a single kamikaze plane detected in the area during their time on station. The following day, the vessel was assigned to Radar Picket Station 1, about 30 miles north of Okinawa. She then joined forces in repulsing an air attack, downing 13 enemy aircraft. You're on your own, Laffey. On April 16th, The crew ate breakfast without interruptions. However, at 8:25 a.m., the radar operator reported a cluster of enemy aircraft, too many to count. Less than 10 miles away, a group of 165 kamikazes and 150 other Japanese aircraft were coming in fast toward USS Laffey from the north. Despite calling for help, the fighter director team was informed that fighters sent to intercept the huge formation would take a while to arrive in the area. For the time being, Laffey and her 2 support craft would have to deal with the incoming enemy on their own. At exactly 8:30 a.m., 4 Aichi D-3A Val dive bombers broke off from the massive incoming group and headed towards Laffey as she steamed along at flank speed. In a highly coordinated attack, 2 Vals came in from the bow and 2 from the stern. Becton then ordered a hard left rudder, bringing the destroyer broadside to the aircraft. In a second, the 2 forward 5-inch guns downed 2 of the Vals. The same stern gun hit the 3rd kamikaze, and the 20mm and 40mm mounts downed the 4th, assisted by the gunners on LCS-51. Attacks galore. Immediately after the 4 initial attacks, one of Laffey's gunners destroyed a Yokosuka D-4Y dive bomber as its pilot made a strafing approach on the port beam. Seconds later, Laffey's main gun battery hit a second D-4Y bomber on an approach from the starboard beam. While its ordnance detonated in the water, its shrapnel still hurt the starboard gunners. Laffey's crew then destroyed another D-3A approaching the port side, which made a glancing blow against the deck before crashing into the sea, spewing lethal aviation fuel into the ship. 3 minutes later, another D-3A dive bomber approaching from port successfully crashed into one of the mounts of the ship, destroying 1 20mm and 2 40mm guns, setting the magazine ablaze. Soon after, another D-3A made a strafing approach from the stern, impacting the aft caliber gun mount and disintegrating as its bomb detonated the powder magazine. This incident destroyed the gun turret and caused a significant fire. 2 more D-3As then made similar approaches, impacting the already burning gun mount and jamming Laffey's rudder 26 degrees to port. Immediately, another D-3A and D-4Y approached from the port and hit Laffey one more time. Between one of these attacks, an officer asked the skipper whether they would have to abandon Laffey. Becton famously replied, quote, "We still have guns that can shoot. I'll never abandon ship, as long as a gun will fire." Look up, Becton. By the time the 22nd attack ended, the situation aboard USS Laffey was critical. Many fires still raged. The destroyer's stern was down because of flooded aft compartments. Many guns did not function anymore, and the rudder remained jammed at 26 degrees. Amidst the chaos, confusion, and noise, Becton suddenly heard what sounded like many planes diving at once. For a second, the commander was crushed, as he knew his beloved Laffey could not absorb any more punishment. However, sonarman Charlie Bell, the commander's telephone talker, pointed skyward and said, quote, "Captain, look what's up there." The weary skipper looked up to find 24 Cat Marine Corsairs and Navy Grumman F-6F Hellcat arriving to help the few aircraft already on station, strained from battling the Japanese. By then, the enemy had finally had enough, and the remaining aircraft were hightailing it out of the area. The entire ship exploded in jubilation, and shouts of "Get the bastards! Rip 'em up! Nail 'em!" rose above the din of the receding battle. After 80 minutes of continuous air attacks that included 6 kamikaze pilots that crashed into the vessel and 4 bomb hits, 23 men lost their lives, and more than 70 men were wounded. Resilient until the end. Most of the crew could not believe their beloved ship remained afloat after the last kamikaze ended its run, but she did. After tugboats safely brought the damaged destroyer to port, temporary repairs allowed Commander Becton to travel across the Pacific to Seattle, Washington. There, Becton and his ship received a warm reception from the press and the public. In an effort to remind American civilians that the war was not over, the United States Navy Department made the destroyer available for public viewing, including the damaged gun mounts and badly punctured decks. For her service in World War II, USS Laffey was awarded 5 battle stars and a Presidential Unit Citation. Commander Becton was awarded the Navy Cross, and fallen ensign Robert Clarence Thompson was awarded a posthumous Navy Cross. In addition, several other crewmen were awarded 6 Silver Stars, 18 Bronze Stars, and 1 Navy Letter of Commendation. After her service in Okinawa, the destroyer was successfully repaired and served as a support vessel in Operation Crossroads, the atomic bomb test at Bikini Atoll in 1946. The ship then went on to see action in the Korean War, serving for years until she was decommissioned in 1975. Unlike many of her sister ships that went directly to the scrapyard, Laffey, the only surviving Sumner-class destroyer in North America, was preserved as a museum and declared a National Historic Landmark in 1986. Thank you for watching Dark Seas. For more exciting military content, check out the rest of our Dark Documentaries channels. Also, hit the bell icon to be notified of our newest content, which we publish regularly. Stay tuned.